Nice. I reckon we're going to have a busy call today.
Yep.
Everybody likes to show up when everything's pumping. Hey, let's get some Wagme's and when Lambos going. Come on. Who's going to do the first? Well, I'll do the first when Lambo then, just to get things started off. What else have we got? Boats and hoes, Lambos. Get it in there, Wagme's. Hey, Michael. All right. Okay, the call's filling up nicely. So I want to jam for a little bit on a couple of bits, but certainly on this Bitcoin dominance. I'm on the laptop, so I got to shut down the floating controls. I got to move our pretty faces all over the place. Right. So this is on the monthly, just so that it's easy to see, okay? And again, we'll just start with some of the big observations that we can make, you know. This blue line here, roughly about the 71%, you know, and I always go back to this thing of what's the simplest possible way to look at these charts? And it's like, okay, then when we're around here, something tends to happen. Okay. There's usually some kind of reaction. So if we take this period here, okay, anybody that remembers the AWCE will clearly remember, okay, that this would be Bitcoin week. This would be alts week. Alts week, Bitcoin. Alts, Bitcoin. Alts, Bitcoin. So this dominance, it's like anything. It's just a guide. It's just another piece of information that we can look at and say, well, can it give us any credible insight to where we think the sentiment of the market might be? So if we look to where we are today, okay, we've been at this 64%. I know that I realize that this isn't price action. So I don't want anybody to get confused thinking reading price action. We're just using this as like a metric, just as a guide, okay? But we've been around this kind of 64%. And we can see that this is historically, you know, a pretty busy area. Like there's a lot goes on around the 64. Now, does it always have to go up to 71? No, it doesn't. There's nothing written in stone like that. Could this be the end for Bitcoin and we don't go any further and there's no more? It could be, you know what I mean? Okay. But the real information that I'm taking from this at the moment is when we do get a pullback from this pretty consistent uptrend, we get or we've had alt windows. Now, that's really important, that word window. That's very different from season. An alt window and an alt season. These things are very different, okay? So if we look at alts, which I think are drastically underpriced at the moment, we'll see that from December 22 on this pretty steady climb of the Bitcoin dominance, we've just had these very small pullbacks. Most recently on this pullback was around about a 3x or so. A lot of my coins got. And again, that's type of measurement. Okay. That's not like an official measurement. We're not going to measure this candle and say, well, this one should give us 6x or 10x. I'm just saying that these opportunities were very short. There was a very limited window for alts to actually do something. Okay. It might be during these windows that alts corrected themselves technically. Maybe they were having, you know, trying to reconnect with the next level. I'm trying to think of the word, not drawdown. I've lost my mind now. Well, it doesn't matter. It might be that they just got up to the next level of support or something, and there was a little bit of movement from them. Well, we can see clearly, and we're looking at the monthly chart as well. If we go to the weekly, things will appear even bigger. Okay. And there's a trick there. Weekly things are bigger, and it doesn't matter. So the question that I'm asking myself after all of this is what's going to happen now? Because we've had this lovely come down here, okay, are we going to carry on seeing more downside from the Bitcoin dominance? Because guess what? If we keep seeing more downside from the Bitcoin dominance, alts are going to keep going up and up and up and up and up. So just how far down could we come on this Bitcoin dominance? Okay. Well, there's a couple of levels that are marked out here. You could also draw it with like a solid box as well, and it would be similar to what you call like an order block, like there's one here. And all this does is this just shows easily where there's clusters of activity that is happening. So the first thing is obviously we'll get the weekly closing, okay, which has just happened. So we got 7 days now. And then it's a case of, well, where's this going to go? Is this going to come down to here? And is this going to start to slow down a little bit? And if it starts to slow down a little bit, you know, what effect will that have on alts? Will that start to slow alts up a little bit? Will it mean that some of the smaller shitters will start moving? What happens if this was just to go woo, bang, and just to crash straight through this? Okay. Well, probably we would start moving from an alt window into an alt season. So what would I say is the difference between an alt window and an alt season? It's just longer. It's just longer. Okay. But one of the things to really remember is that these things are still quite short-lived. Like they don't go on forever. Like they might turn up to the maximum, but there might be, I don't know, 2 weeks, and then it might be 3 weeks, and then it ends abruptly. And during that period of pandemonium, that's when you want to think back to all the heuristics that you've heard from Scott. I cannot lose. Right, well, that's the fucking time to take half your money off the table. Soon as you feel invincible, start thinking, right, I need to take some money off the table here. You know, I can't lose. Like me, we've got to be getting close to the top here. Somebody that doesn't talk to you about crypto much starts sending you a message. Things might start to get a little bit towards the top here. Now, reading Scott's daily emails is a great way to keep track of the basics of market sentiment. His emails are really good, you know, with things like things feel a bit toppy. I'm taking a bit of money. I'm relaxing here. This is what he's talking about. Now, obviously, Scott uses a lot of open interest. Maurizio loses a lot of open interest. They get a lot more granular, you know what I mean? And I like the Bitcoin dominance, but it's just a simple, big metric that I can use within all the other metrics that I like to use. So at the moment, I'm still pretty bullish for alts. So let's see if we can find some other reasons to be bullish. Well, look at ETH, man. Now, the thing with ETH is ETH has the largest, or next to Bitcoin, you know, it has the largest market cap. So this thing of ETH moves first and then things follow, and you know, is the cycle broken, or is the, let's just make it really simple. ETH has got, you know, below Bitcoin, it's got the biggest market cap of the alts, of the alternatives to Bitcoin, right? So what this means is, it means that, let's say Retardio pumps, right? What does that do to the overall crypto market cap? Fuck all, really, right? When ETH pumps, shit moves, right? Market caps move. So we can look at the crypto total market cap somewhere. I've got it somewhere. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. All right. So again, there's some pretty obvious things on here. There's some pretty obvious lines that are drawn out. And this 315 billion, this is the line that we're really interested in. Okay, this top half of this range and possibly onto a bigger all-time market cap than we've ever had before. Like, this is when it goes, you know, and it really goes crazy. This is probably when the money printers are turned on and we're all Lambos. Okay. So what's going to happen this week with the market cap. You can see that we closed just below that 315 billion, a little bit of profit taking maybe, okay, but bang, we're immediately pointing back up again. The bulls are very much in charge here. So do I know what's going to happen this week? No, I don't. What would I like to see for something bullish to happen? Well, I'd like us to see us breach this 315, and then it'll be a case of 7 days from now looking at this and saying, well, did we get there? Did we hold it? Are we going up? What's happening? And one of the things that's really going to contribute to that is what Ethereum does. So Ethereum needs to set itself up for an attack on new all-time highs. And the way that it's going to do that is by recapturing this green line here, which means for it to be a pitch perfect technical event, you want it to weekly close above that green line. Then you want to have a perfect retest, and then you will be away from it. Now, there's a couple of different metrics that you can use. Like we looked at Bitcoin dominance, right? Well, if you go to Ethereum Bitcoin, that Scott will tell you is, one of the most important charts in crypto. Well, Ethereum Bitcoin is basically Ethereum dominance. You could think of it as the same thing, right? So we've got this real breakout here on Ethereum dominance. So again, what is going to happen this week? And this is the kind of monitoring and checks that you can do. But again, none of it is, well, this is absolutely what will happen. This is just where we can, well, where do you want your money right now? Do you want to be putting well, first of all, you shouldn't be stressing too much about putting your money in because this should already be done. Like I think that Scott would say probably the biggest mistake that you could make right now is being undercapitalized in the market. To me, this feels like the balloon that's been held under the water stage, and we're just about to go. So with the 100x club, this is why we entered into positions a long time ago, because they can take a long time to mature, some of them. Or, as Maurizio is going to run through some of the trades, some of them can be much faster winners, okay? So Maurizio is hand-picking these trades for you for the 100x for both the long-term and for the short-term trading as well. So if we just wrap up this by just having a look at the old Bitcoin, okay? Well, the story of Bitcoin this cycle has been breakout, snooze fest for a bunch of months. Breakout, snooze fest. Breakout, snooze fest. Breakout, snooze fest. We had a little downside deviation here. That's what I was trying to think of earlier. Downside deviation when I was talking about those alts. And then we got another little breakout. But look, it's getting a little bit shorter, isn't it? It's starting to get a little bit shorter in between the price discovery uptrends that are happening. So now the question is, or this is a question that I'll hand it over to Maurizio, but I'll ask everybody to put a number in the chat, right? What is the number that Bitcoin has got to get to so that the average man in the street starts giving a fuck? Because you see those emails from Scott where he says like 118,000 seems quite cheap for a Bitcoin, doesn't it? Right? Well, let's think about that sentiment. Bitcoin's been at, I don't know, 110 for quite a while, right? Now it's at 117. Well, that's not that exciting, is it? Not if you're a layman, a nobody that's looking in from the outside. So what number do you think that Bitcoin's got to get to for that average Joe to be like, fucking hell, we got to get some of this? Let's see what numbers we get. Donna, I like your number. I would,
Yeah,
Jeff,
we all like that, don't we? Yeah.
would be nicer. It might be a little thing. Todd, I agree with you. ETH does have to break that all-time high. That will be something that gets people really excited. And what it does around that fourth 4K this week, that could be pivotal for setting us up for next week. I mean, it could just blow through the 4K this week. Who knows? Um, all right, cool. So most of the answers are sort of 120, 150, 125, 180,
250,
250.
300.
I like that. Nice. Nice. All right then, Maurizio, I'm gonna sit in the background and put my feet up. Let the expert take over.
What expert? No, that's a great intro, Ian. Thanks, mate. That was a really good outlook, to be honest. But this is just to show you guys is how markets work. What are people are willing to pay for an asset? As simple as that, right? Like, are you willing to pay 150? Are you willing to pay 130? What are institutions are doing, right? What are institutions are willing to pay for Bitcoin at this price? Are they willing to ape in? Are they willing to add more? Are willing to, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how the markets move, right? So it gets tricky because no one knows, right? This is actually a very, very good insight. Like, you all have different outlooks of what people are willing to pay. The problem with that is that the ones that control capital are the ones that actually know how much are they going to get at what prices, right? So that's why we're trying to sort of aim to sort of find those pockets of liquidity where we can actually get position, right? So it's one of those things, you know what I mean? And all that stuff is valid, like 250, yeah, 160, yeah, 125, yeah, everything is valid. Which one is going to be? Who the fuck knows, to be honest? I have no idea. Let's go through what we see. Let's open the charts first. And you guys see my screen?
We can, yeah.
Beautiful. So obviously I'm very bullish. All right. I'm really bullish, but then I need to find reasons to be bearish. Why? Because there's a few approaches here, right? Like, let's start with Bitcoin. All right. So you something that I also want to highlight that you just did, right, is that if you go through the chat and you see all your responses, you talked about even numbers: 120, 150, 130, 200, 250, 300. No one actually said 251,000 or 152,000 on. So when we are in these sort of price discovery areas, these even numbers become psychological levels. Okay, that's something that I've sort of seen over and over again. So if we break the 120, there is a highly likelihood that we go to 130 and then and so forth, right? Is that break even? Because you don't know how far you can actually get. The interesting thing, the only line that I have here in terms of support and resistance, which it doesn't sort of, it gives you a guideline, but it's not, you know what I mean? Price doesn't have to be there, because you draw a line, that doesn't mean that's just give you a, give you a, is giving you an idea where the price could actually get. But I drew this line a while back in terms of all-time highs, and this is where we're heading at the moment. So this is kind of my range for me to remain bullish. Obviously, you're going to have pullbacks, people buying, people selling, people, being afraid, at these levels. That's kind of usual in the market. That's why we're going to shakeouts. And that's why, doing scalps and things like that could be really good. That could be risky. You could get stopped out, but that's part of the game. So if we have a look from the smaller time frames, this is the 6 hours chart, right? Last week we talked about this, which is the CME gap, and the CME gap, it hasn't been filled yet. What that means is there is a gap of liquidity right here. Can these usually gaps get filled? Usually, you know, but that doesn't mean that this one will. But I'm still aware of this happening. What the feel means is that market might, you know, momentarily, right, bounce from here, you know, getting a lot of liquidations happening, and then new buyers are coming in, gaps fill, and then and so forth. So this is one of the things that I am actually waiting for, in a way, right, to get, you know, better positions around that if we get it, right? So, but you need to have both possibilities. You know, one is, are we going to get it? Two, you never get it. So at the end of the day, you need to sort of start positioning slowly, right? But in case we get it, then I'll be heavily adding more leverage in a way, right? So that's kind of one of the first things that I want to highlight. And, you know, Ian just gave us a really, really good example of for you guys to say, you know, 120, 130, that's how markets move in a way. So always have that in mind. And what we're trying to time out is what the big players are doing, right? I get along with them, you know, because obviously those are the ones that are actually moving the market. So this is something that we have to be aware of, right? So this is in terms of Bitcoin. Let me just, where's my chat? Right here. So where's my chat disappear? Okay. All right, perfect. So over the weekend, what happened over the weekend? So over the weekend was really choppy. There was a bunch of stuff that went up over the weekend. So usually over the weekend, a lot of things could happen. That was the reason why I took some trades on Friday, which one didn't work and the other ones are working. Because usually over the weekend, because of high, low liquidity, it's less liquidity, it's easier to move the market, right? From market makers perspective, with just market makers against retail in a way, right? So what we saw is that Bitcoin is sort of not giving us a really good push. However, if we have a look at alts, right? Alts, it is sort of like, let me just like this. This is yeah, this daily. So over the weekend, the last 2 days, this thing went nuts. There's a bunch of stuff that went nuts, which is yeah, I'm gonna highlight a few ones that we were watching. But then I'm going to give you my insights of what I'm thinking could happen, right? One of the possibilities, right? So yeah, over the weekend, alts went up. Ian show you guys the dominance. So that's actually highly correlated with this factor. So that's one of the things that I'm still remaining bullish. But if we take that from data perspective, right? Why? What I like to do is have my reasons to be bullish and have my reasons to be bearish, right? And that sort of removes the bias towards what do you think it could happen, because what do you think it could happen, it might never happen, and what do you think it'll never happen, it might happen. So at the end of the day, you know, if you go too big too soon, then you could get chopped out, right? But so first of all, let me talk about what happened with, you know, all the sales. So you were talking about that, you know, I show you guys that there was a lot of Bitcoin being transferred from Galaxy to Galaxy Digital, which is a market maker that specializes in selling Bitcoin, huge amount of Bitcoin. So apparently they did already a bunch of the sales. The good news is that they sold probably around 5 bill, no, more than that, like 10 bill of Bitcoin, and that did not affect the market in a way. It did affect it at some point on Friday, but the market pretty much absorbed that pressure. Okay, so that's actually quite bullish in my opinion, right? When you have a lot of stuff selling, so what that means is new buyers are coming in. There's new liquidity coming in. There's new people thinking that 117,000 or 116 is actually quite cheap for Bitcoin, right? So whoever thought, you know, that 100 was going to be too expensive. Now they think that 116 is cheap. So that's the first kind of bullish sign that I'm seeing. All those sales being absorbed. Because imagine you're selling like 10 bill worth of Bitcoin. It wasn't much of a reaction here, to be honest. So I was expecting a little bit lower. So things that I don't want to see is I don't want to see Bitcoin coming lower below this CME gap. If we start, if we get a feel of CME gap and we continue towards, then I'll be getting out of positions and things like that. Why? I don't like to, that could be the first indication of exhaustion of liquidity, right? And that's kind of what we may aim to track. Another thing that I'm looking for is, are we overextended? So let me ask you guys, do you think, are we overextended on markets, on Total 3, on all the alts? Are we already overextended? Like, is this sort of like, there's some alts that they went up nicely 100% or 50%. So chat said no. Who else? All right, you guys, spot on. What I wanna do is sort of base my theory. So if you have a thesis, like, are we overextended? Yes or no? So the first thing that I will look for is overextension of funding rates and things like that. So I did show you guys a while back this tool is on Coinalyze, right? So you go to Coinalyze Bitcoin, and then you add this indicator. First of all, obviously you guys are aware of the funding rates already, but I'm pretty sure you guys already know about the global funding rate tool. If you don't, the way that you open it up, you go indicators, and then you go funding rate, right? And then you choose this one, aggregated funding rate global. What global means, let me add it again and I'll show you. What global means is like the funding rates across all alts, okay, or across all markets right now. So it's a really, really great tool to see how overextended we are. And let me show you. Come on. Okay. Wait, taking a long time. Anyway, it's gonna be the same thing here. But once it's loaded, you go into settings, and then on settings, you can actually do all, all is basically all markets, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, everything, right? You can actually exclude Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? Which is basically the chart that we're seeing. Why? Because I don't want to see Bitcoin and Ethereum here, because the funding rate perspective is quite different of the funding rates of alts, right? But you can actually see that they do have different ecosystems, right? That you can actually track to see if they're going to be overextended or no. Same concept, same principle, but for the time being, we're just going to show you the overall. I'm just going to show you the overall thing for me to say, all right, well, I'm still bullish and I want to get position on every single dip. That's kind of the bias that I'm taking right now, right? Why? It's taking forever. Anyway, you know how to build it, but if the one above here is the funding rates of Bitcoin itself, right? And the one at the bottom is the funding rate of the whole market, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. What that means is funding rates, right? Funding rates is basically a measure between a spot and leverage, right? In a way, or pair positions, right? And when funding rate gets really off balance, what that means is we could actually get very overextended. What that means is it's a measure of leverage. So when it's a lot of leverage in the system, there's a highly likelihood that we're gonna get a dump at some point. Okay, so that's kind of in essence, in a nutshell, what that means. So first of all, I have a look at Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin is around the 0.01, and this is the aggregated in terms of all the exchanges. Binance, Hyperliquid, Bybit, all the important exchanges, and actually it's a great aggregated measurement of the market. So This is the first thing that I want to see, right? Why? Because it's not sort of, it looks high, but 0.01 is sort of a level that, you know, there's the same amount of buyers and seller. If we go back here, right, in this little dome that we had at this peak, you can actually see funding interest, funding rates start going nuts on Bitcoin. So this is the first thing that I wanted you to show. So it starts going nuts, and then you get a pullback, right? Let me just show you something here as well. Like if we go farther in time, but that doesn't mean this is going to happen, guys. Okay, that doesn't mean that because funding rates are high, right? Things are going to dump. It might get a retracement, it might get a flush, but you don't know how far. You know, that's the thing, because the market could absorb, right, those liquidations and things like that, right? But then here, which happened in February 2021, Bitcoin again went up all the way to 0.1, right? And then we have a little bit of a flush. Same thing here, that like you get the overextended period. So that's kind of stuff that I'm looking at from the are we overextended? Are we fully overextended? So I'll be very worried about this when funding rates get to these peaks, you know, because that's when things are getting, it could get really, really, really iffy. Okay, so from the time being, we're shifting from a negative funding rate regime into a positive funding rate. So what that means, well, at 8 right now, well, this is why I started looking into small time frame things and there, because this is just the macro picture. But we could get, you know, flushes a little bit, but still will remain bullish as long structure remains the same. Okay, that's kind of in a nutshell what I'm looking from the longer term perspective. Okay, so no, thanks, Todd. Thanks for clarifying that. So definitely. So open interest basically is the amount of open interest is different than funding rates, by the way. So what we're watching here is funding rates. Be aware of. Okay. So funding rates is an indication. Open interest is another indication. Okay. So now let's go and look at the inflows. So Bitcoin inflows start to get a little bit, you know, they get some outflows here. Ethereum started getting a little bit of outflows, right? So things could get in the medium term a little bit of a flush, right? And kind of in a way you want that, because you do want to get position on some stuff, right? And so that's kind of what I'm saying. Another thing that you're already aware of is the spot buying, sort of medium. This is like a medium to short-term time frame. So what you look here is the aggregated spot volume. So I remember tell you guys, if I start seeing flushes on volume, that means spot are not buying at these levels. So what I want to see is a spot buying, right, of price being absorbed on this liquidation. So for instance, just now, probably like, yeah, an hour ago, yeah, it's 30 minutes, give or take, yeah, we had a liquidation here, right? What that means is people went long, right? Or someone went long, probably around, I don't know, maybe here or who knows where. And then, you know, we got this dump, then you have a liquidation, and then those liquidations are pretty important to see if they get absorbed. If they don't, more than likely we're gonna move a little bit down, you know, we're going to move down. So that's the stuff that I look for in sort of the small time frames, especially if you want to scalp the market, right? But from the sort of higher time frames and things that we get in position, so it's just important to be aware of where the liquidations are. That's how you draw the levels, and you know, you just keep tracking on you just keep track of that. So that's kind of my long-term view in terms of the big picture. However, you have to be aware of a few bear cases that we could have, right? So one that I'm still looking for is the tariffs deadline is on August the 1st, right? So is that tariffs, again, if Trump, you know, decides to do something, like if Trump decides to go ahead with it, the markets are going to get affected. So that could be a possible flush. That being said, if that happens, then I'll be looking to get positioned. So you make your plans ahead, right? And that's but I'm remaining bullish, right? So obviously that's kind of the first thing that I'll be watching. Also, there is another news about UK thinking about selling $5 billion worth of Bitcoin that they have. Depends on how they execute it. Because I don't know, you guys remember the Germans, started selling their Bitcoin and stuff like that, and the execution were horrible. What they did is just dump all the Bitcoin in the market. It wasn't done through, for instance, Galaxy Digital, which are specialized professional sellers in a way that they don't want to dump everything on the market. They see volume, they know when to sell, so the market doesn't get affected quite often. So that was horrible, man. So depends of how the UK, if they sell, execute, right, that sale, then either is going to affect the market or not. So I'm looking aware of that. Also, I'm looking at the dollar bouncing a little bit. So if you guys have a look, there is in TradingView, there is the DYX seasonal charts, which show you, like what the dollar has done in different years and different seasons since 1967. So this has been the season that has been the lowest. This is actually quite good for risk assets. But if this starts claiming back all the way up, then it's not going to be as good for risk assets, such as all coins in this particular case. So like, let me just look, so this is what I wanna, this is what I don't want to see, or this is what I want to see in terms of the dollar index, right? And the dollar index, if I take it from the, say from the weekly, wow. All right, from the weekly perspective, I don't want to see the index climbing up, right? Like this, and this is going to take, I'm talking about on a weekly basis, right? So this could take 2 or 3 or 4, 5, 7 weeks, right? I don't want to see this. What I want to see is probably this, coming back up, and this is going to give us a very, very good push to risk assets in general, and that's going to be a really good influx of capital, things like that, into risk assets. So I'm just aware of that. So everything looks good, but as long as we remain on these levels, I'm still bullish. All right. So that's kind of where my bias is at the moment. So coming back into just, coming back in, come on. Sorry. There you go. All right. Let's have a look at Ethereum. So Ethereum, right, looks fantastic, looks amazing, right? But this is the area. It's a very interesting area right here. So as you can see, we've almost on the verge of having all-time highs of Ethereum, right? We are, if you look at this from the daily perspective, right? So in March 2024, we tried to break that level and couldn't. On May 24, on May, it happened again and we couldn't. On Friday, again, we tried twice and we could have. Ethereum couldn't actually break. And actually on March, on December, right, that was the one that actually took Ethereum all the way down to 1,500. So we're back up here again, okay? This is a very important number. If we have, the conditions are really good in terms of macro, in terms of Bitcoin, in terms of Trump, in terms of all this stuff, right? To get this in, and I'm seeing a lot. This is why I'm biased towards this breaking up, okay? And the reason why is that we did talk about it, I think, like 2 weeks ago. There is now companies doing the same treasury strategy that Michael Saylor did with Bitcoin, but now they're doing it with Ethereum, okay? So what that means is, oh, by the way, that you guys All right, can you still watch my screen? For some reason, my video went still. All right, now I think it looks okay. All right, cool. Thanks, Todd, man. Yeah, sometimes I just talk and maybe. All right, so this is kind of why I think in terms of conditions, these are the perfect conditions for this thing to break up, right? And if it does, we enter in price discovery. So once we enter of Ethereum price discovery, there's a lot of things that could enter into price discovery as well. Okay, so that's kind of my bias in terms of Ethereum, right? Obviously, be aware that we can bounce here, we can chop around this area, right? So we got the liquidity in order to break up, but things that I do not want to see is Ethereum coming back into this area here, the 3,200, right? You know, that will sort of get back into this little pocket of sellers, you know, so that's kind of what I'm looking for. Do you wait? Do you start buying now? This is the trick, right? Like you start getting position. We already start getting position on some stuff on low leverage, but then I wanna start getting position as well on some other stuff as you know, because if we have this break, more than likely things are going to go fast. That's kind of the main problem of alts, right? That it could happen fast to either direction. It could actually just go nuts, or it could just bounce nuts. So that's kind of the game, right? So yeah, that's kind of my full picture in terms of where I'm at with both. Also want to talk about Solana, because Solana, just this one. I think Solana could catch up, right? So right now it's Ethereum season, definitely. Solana being the fact that we, you know, they're going to be in ETF inflows, new stuff, new liquidity, then I'll be keeping an eye on Solana, especially on the break of these levels, the 184. Then if Solana breaks and Ethereum breaks, man, this is going to be a really interesting season for everybody. Okay, so that's kind of what we're hoping for. If it does, if it doesn't, then we need to just be prepared and we might short the market. Who knows? But that's kind of where I'm at the moment with Solana. Ethereum against Bitcoin, you cannot get this chart. Looks beautiful, man. Obviously, you know, obviously expect a little bit of chopping around, but then I'm looking at this level here, right, to sustain or at least above this breakout level here in order for me to keep the momentum to the upside, right? So yeah, that's in a nutshell where I'm at in terms of everything. So if we look at the spaghetti charts, right? Oh man, I missed CFX. Unfortunately, this happened yesterday over the weekend, and this thing went freaking nuts. So yeah, we were tracking CFX on Friday. I remember. Yeah, I don't know if you guys watch my videos. And yeah, man, went nuts. But then obviously these things could get like really illiquid soon. So, but this is just give you an indication of what things are breaking, what things are following, and if you do a scalp, so or we can actually get positioned. So from that perspective, right, we are in XRP. I'm looking at a TIA, Link, SUI. This is kind of the order I'm looking into getting positioned, right? In terms of ETH betas, you can actually see mostly our ETH betas are actually getting pretty strong. We went into ETH5 last week. And we went to INA. Let's talk about some trades. But before that, still meme sector looks pretty good, and Retarded is catching a bit, you know. So glad if you guys were Retarded. I think Ian will be happy that Retarded is actually catching as well. RWAs, in terms of RWAs, I think Sipu is the one that is leading the horse right now, followed by RSR. I don't trust RSR. I don't trust Dusk. This is, you know, the WD coins, I think. But, you know, Ondo, Pendle, they're following. So you know, pretty much everything is overperforming Bitcoin, which is good. That's kind of the stuff that you want to see. Also in DeFi, we are in Uni. took uni a while back, but I'm still looking to get into some of these ones on Jupe and Aave. Maybe we are on Aave already. So yeah, this is kind of the over. Let me give me 1 second that I need to. Sorry. Chainlink. Okay, so that's kind of the overall picture, right? So obviously, unfortunately, CFX, I missed it completely, but let's have a look at what I'm looking for. So let's just start with the positions that we already hold. Okay, so we're still holding Dodge for like this is since last season, which is fairly good, man. I think on the next high, I think I'm gonna start taking more profits. But then this is one of the best trades that we've done last cycle, and we're still holding this one, right? Hype, we took 50%, and then we just, I think Hype we're gonna have continuation. Uni, we took Uni around here. Uni broke these levels here, and I don't see Uni coming back. So we are already on break even. We already took some profits on this one. This one could actually get to. This is my next level here. Take a little bit more profits here, and then let the other stuff run. ARB still there. I think ARB is, if you haven't actually get into ARB, I think that could be an option to get in here. I think this one could do pretty well in terms of everything that has been going on in layer ones and layer twos and Ethereum. So this one, I'm looking to get some profits again around here. We already took some profits, by the way, move the stop loss or whatever this does. If market decides to cheat itself, we covered. Ina, nice. So Ina is doing great, man. Ina is doing fantastic. I'm happy with this one. So we went in here, we already took some profits, and I think my next profit taking will be around this area right here, the 75 level. But if this breaks, I think Ina could do really well. It could do really, really well in these bullish conditions. So glad if you guys took this one. So Pengu, man, no questions. We took this one, took some profits, and we took. I still have a remaining of 20%, something like that, of the full position. So let's see what Pengu does. But Pengu doesn't seem to retrace a lot. So I think Pengu could give us a really good surprise. Will I enter Pengu here? Ooh, who knows? Don't know. Yeah. This one is the one that I'm sort of this is a very risky. We entered on this one a while, like last week. And I gave you, like, you watched the video last week, and I gave you all my insight why this could actually do pretty well. So this one is quite risky. And just yesterday, on Sunday, it did 20% upwards. So FHE is working good. XRP, I know you guys are actually happy with the XRP trade. But I'm thinking to get some profits. I haven't taken some profits yet. But I have my stop loss above here, right? Because we are like, if this XRP is a real breakout, I think my first target could be $4 and take some profits, and then whatever this thing decides to do, it decides to do, make money. 85 is pretty much an entry. I think I'm battling between 85 and aging. I don't want to have both in terms of Ethereum betas, but let's see what this one decides to do. But it's doing pretty well. Monday, we decided to actually get out of this one on a little bit of a loss, so that's no longer there. Arrow is actually getting up there. Pretty good recovery yesterday as well. So I think Arrow, if you haven't entered this trade yet, I think this could be a really good one as well. The one that fucked me up is A16 set. So A16 set, I moved the stop loss on this one, and I took a second trade with high risk. that stopped me out, unfortunately, on freaking Friday on New Year Open. So it's giving me, yeah, 816 is really volatile, but really volatile assets, right? Could give you the best returns. So I'm still, so this one stopped me out, this one on a break even, and this one on loss, but I'm actually looking to get into it again. So have in mind, volatile assets are very volatile. Therefore, just be really careful. So that's the positions that we are on leverage at the moment. Okay, we do have a bunch of positions on the spot at the moment. Filecoin, I think Filecoin is doing fantastic. We have Aave, we have a yeah, but this is the ones that actually, you know, we are on leverage at the moment, the one that we keep track of pretty much every single day. Besides that, what I'm watching, man, yeah, I had CFX on my radar. Yeah, look at this thing, man. I missed it, but I entered this one now. Who knows? Let's see. But I was expecting something like this to happen on CFX. I'm watching LDO as well. LDO actually had a pretty good structural break. I'm watching Aging, the Aging Ledger. So between Aging and ETHFI, you know, these two, I'm already on ETHFI, but Aging could do pretty well in the back of what is it, SBET. It looks like SBET is going to do some staking of ETH using Aging, and that could have a really good fundamental level, good narrative, right, for Aging to actually start breaking up above these levels. Still watching it, TIA. So TIA could, and TIA, he's been pretty strong lately, but he's been a really shit coin for a while. But that doesn't mean that this could actually start racing at least to 450, right, on a bull run, and then you get some profits, move the stop loss, and then if this decides to shoot itself, good. But if it decides to come back to all-time highs, which I doubtly, I don't think so, but who knows? You could be surprised. So I'm watching that one. I'm watching Mode. Mode, I gave you my reasons for Mode. I'm watching Kaya as well. And I'm watching all the American coins as well, like on the back of what happened on Friday, right, with the Genius Act and what Trump put on. Watching Algo, of course, HBAR, ADA, right? So ADA tried to break out this level. Let me just make it this. I'm watching at this level here. Ideally, I don't know if we're gonna get a pullback, to be honest. It looks pretty strong. XLM as well looks pretty strong. Ondo looks pretty ready to go to the breakout, and Mantle as well. So it's a lot of things to go. You know what I mean? There's a lot of the things that we can actually get into. However, I'm just sort of being more selective, looking at the full spaghetti chart, the spaghetti sector to start seeing the rotations. And what I'm seeing at the moment is that DeFi is starting to catch the beat. And then after that, don't know if it's going to be AI or don't know it's going to be still memes. Don't know which is the rotation that is going to catch on. Probably RWA, who knows? But this is kind of gives you a good indication of how things could actually rotate to. So yeah, I think that's it for me, guys. So yeah, it's been a lot of things going on. So yeah, Todd, biggest breakout, 33%. Again, I know, man. I know it's one of those things, Todd, that I was watching CFX. It looked pretty good. Yeah, market just, whenever he wants to go, he wants to go. And now, obviously, it's 133% up, right? Would you get into these levels here, right? Is this going to have continuation? So I'll do a little bit more research why, what the fundamentals behind it. If sometimes they releases new sort of what is it? Blanked out, man. So the reason why this could get get into this type of huge breakouts, right? And it will have continuation. Is they have they partner up with some other crypto stuff. They doing something very interesting in the tech. Or it's just a market making move in this thing. Who knows? So that's kind of, you know, I'll look a little bit today to see if we want to enter on these levels or not. Besides that, man, everything looks great, man. To be honest. So yeah, I think
Nice.
that's it for me, guys.
That's lovely. I'll see you all in the group. See you next
All
week.
right, guys. See
Right,
you.
see ya.
See you tomorrow. Yep.